You have to decide that you're capable of more, and that there is an opportunity for you through your disciplined and intentional decision making. And it's amazing that God gives us this freedom to make this change. I think I've said that to you in some of our conversations. It blows me away that I can be 80 pounds over and now be where I am. And I'm literally 2 days, I'm about to run a half marathon. And it's like, that's crazy. That's two different guys, right? And where it came from is the story I told myself. And I decided not to believe that lie, that I was destined to be that big guy, and destined to be, and more importantly than just being overweight, destined to be controlled by food.
Hello and welcome to An Idol Called Food. I am your host, JT Tapias, and today we're going to be interviewing a special guest. But before we go there, I'd like to speak with you about the Empty Your Bucket nutrition plan. If you're looking to get on a fitness journey, if you're looking to find something sustainable, something that you can do for the rest of your life without having to exert a lot of energy, go to emptyyourbucketplan.com and start your journey today. Imagine facing seemingly unsurmountable challenges when it comes to maintaining your weight, losing weight, being 80 pounds overweight, struggling to find a sustainable path forward. Now, imagine all that weight and just losing all that weight in just 20 weeks through a quick fix that is not necessarily a quick fix, but it's one of the easiest and fastest ways to make nutrition sustainable. Our guest today is a musician. He's an entrepreneur. He's a man of faith. He's done exactly that. He's lost 80 pounds in 20 weeks. Pretty amazing. He's here to share his incredible journey of health, perseverance, and unwavering belief that helped him achieve this remarkable feat. Seth, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Brother, it is awesome to have you here. And every time I say 80 pounds in 20 weeks, I have to double check my notes to see if there was a mistake on my end. But man, tell us where you were weight-wise before you started this program, not just from a metrics perspective, but where were you mentally?
Well, at the beginning of the year, my wife and I kind of had sort of a discussion about how we were feeling and where we were. And we had just noticed that we had started to drift a little bit, or a lot of bit in my case, from what we really knew we needed to be doing, where we really needed to be. And I've always kind of had a battle with food. It's been something that's been with me since I was young. And I came to a place where I just knew that I needed to make a change. I began to acknowledge the power that food had over me. And that just didn't seem right, didn't seem correct, didn't seem to line up with my faith or what God seems to say about self-control and character and that sort of thing. And I just knew I needed to do something. So I acknowledged that I was in a place that I had gotten myself, and I needed to search out some wisdom to correct my path and correct my decision-making that sort of got me there. So, yeah. That's amazing. That's a lot of self-awareness, because I know, a lot of people go through life just thinking that this is just their, that this is just what's there for them. That they don't know any other way. People start, making up excuses and stories in their mind of why they are where they are. But you saw you needed to course correct, and somehow, some way we came across. How did you hear about me? So I'm a musician. I'm an artist, producer, that sort of thing. And so I often watch and connect with Ruslan on YouTube. He's a YouTube guy. He's a Christian hip hop artist. He's been sort of a person who had encouraged me in music and that sort of thing. So I always checked out his stuff, and I had watched him. I believe he went through the program, and he posted some before and afters, and he was looking pretty fit. And I just made a mental note of that. And then sometime later, I happened upon one of his streams, and you were sitting there with him, I think in his studio, having a chat a little bit about just some of the things that you teach and some of the things that you took Ruslan through. And I was intrigued. I was intrigued by the faith component. I was intrigued by just that mix of nutrition with fitness, with faith. And you don't see all three of those things combined in a way that I have found to be balanced very often. And it piqued my interest. And so I hopped on your website and reached out.
That's amazing. Okay, so you saw Ruslan KD's transformation. He lost over 30 plus pounds in our program. And I think you saw the interview when I went to his studio in San Diego. And I think you probably saw I've been there twice. I think you probably saw the first video where he was giving his testimony. He had like a before and after picture of him. A couple of pastors told him not to put that picture up. He still did. But it was incredible. I mean, it was incredible to see, because he's a guy who's always trained. He's always been into fitness. And his transformation was pretty incredible just through dialing in his nutrition. And so you heard that interview, you got intrigued by the faith component, which obviously throws people off because, most people are like, wait a second, this is a nutrition program. What do you like, pray fat off of people, right? What would you say? So, I mean, we've been way beyond the 90 days. We went an extra 20 weeks. This is your last week on the program. You're 80 pounds down. Well, actually, I don't know, your last check, and maybe you'll be even further along the way. But what would you say from a faith perspective? How is this different? Because I'm assuming it's very different than things you've done before.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say the biggest component that really helped me as in terms of like the faith is the accountability of knowing that I was going to have to talk with you about what I was doing and the decisions I was making. Yeah. I think you call it hyper accountability. I don't know if you use that term, but that's jumping up in my mind. And I think accountability plays an important role in our lives as Christians, because we are supposed to take our burdens and our struggles to fellow believers, right? So that we can struggle together and get wisdom and overcome those things. And in my experience, the best place to go when you need help with something or accountability with something is to a place where that person has success in that area. And so I think you as a coach, being able to bring that accountability into it, and me committing to that, like giving you my word, let your yes be yes, right? That all really mattered because I've tried to do things on my own, and I wasn't really great at holding myself accountable in the past. And we tend to make really good excuses for ourselves in our heads. And when we don't have anybody to report to or talk to or share with how we're doing, it's real easy to drift and give yourself a ton of grace to drift pretty far. Yeah. And so, that accountability shifted that for me and put me in a place where if I did drift a little bit, if I did have some mishaps, if I did, I knew I was going to have to talk to you about it. And that mattered because I wanted to do a good job, and I trusted the wisdom that you were bringing to the table. For sure. That's good. So yes, accountability being one of those important pieces of what we do. Talking to people every other day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, making sure that they're doing what they promised to do when they were excited is huge. That the hyper accountability component. It's interesting because you mentioned something. You said, we're really good at making excuses, and I think that we have a tendency to excuse our sin and to find a lot of reasons why that's acceptable. One of the things I often hear inside of the Christian camp when it comes to food is, JT, it's just food, right? It's not, it's not promiscuity. It's not, getting drunk. It's not drugs. It's food, right? We need food in order to live. And I think oftentimes, because that's the only thing that most Christians can do in terms of fun is eat, we overdo it. We overdo it. And we have a really hard time as Christians correlating overeating and gluttony to sin. But then you pointed something out that's really, really important. And you said, as a Christian, we are called to be accountable to other people in the faith. We are called to share our burdens with others.
when we give our word, right? When we say I'm going to do something and we don't do it, right? And we're breaking what we're saying, we're breaking our word. My question is that sin? And it's a conversation that I recently had with someone who's on the program, because she was having a hard time correlating how food, this essential thing that we all need, can actually be something sinful. And I said, well, do you think that, this is a spiritual discipline like any other spiritual discipline? And she said, I think so. I said, well, do you pray over your food? Do you say grace over your food when you pray or when you eat? Do you pray over your food? And she said, yeah, of course I do. And I said, then why wouldn't you consider that a spiritual discipline? And so I think oftentimes when I have these conversations with believers and they start connecting the faith component to it, it can be a game changer. Yeah. Do you think in this process, did you make some of those connections and where you said, man, this is as important as my prayer time, or this is as important as, maybe the practice of fasting? What were some of those connections between what you did inside of the initial 90 days and some convictions that you had from a Bible perspective? Were you reading some things? Were you correlating some things? What was that mind shift?
I think it taught me that I had a dependency on food in a way that went beyond even what I realized. And when you're talking about where do you put your faith, who are you depending on? Who are you leaning on? We lean on food way more as, sort of an emotional, like pick me up, as sort of, it's a thing we run to. It's a thing that, it's this weird thing where when stuff is going good, we eat food to celebrate. When stuff is going bad, we eat food to feel better. Right. And so what I feel like God made abundantly clear in my life as I embraced eating to fuel my body and eating with greater discipline and greater intentionality is He revealed to me just how much I was depending on these this food, these things, and overeating and this sort of gluttonous mindset. And I think you hit the nail on the head. For some reason, even in Christian culture, gluttony is just we just sort of laugh at it or ignore it. You don't hear a lot of sermons about it. I'm a pastor's kid, so I guess I can get away with saying this. I've been in a lot of churches. There's a lot of overweight pastors. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just a thing we struggle with in our community. But what God made abundantly clear for me in my life is that I had a dependency on that. And that's not okay, because I'm not supposed to run to food when I'm hurting. And I don't need food as a drug, as a pick me up. And I feel so much better when I make these decisions that are rooted in intentionality and in discipline. I mean, when you're looking at what you're eating, you have a clearer understanding of what do I truly need? What does my body need to run, to operate? And learning that is a really powerful thing. You mentioned earlier the story we tell ourselves. It can completely change the story you tell yourself about who you are and what you're capable of, and what you need to get by, or what you need to do the things that you do. Yeah,
that's good, man. That's good. Yeah, one of the things that I recently, and not through food is, that's one of the areas that comes easy to me. I don't struggle there. I enjoy working out. And so, that's not a stronghold for me. But recently, based on certain situations and things happening in my life, I, in prayer, was just called to prudence in general. And I think all Christians are called to be sober-minded, to be, to exercise prudence in our lives and everything we do, including, I say all the time, part of that is getting up from the breakfast, lunch, or dinner table and not necessarily being full. Not necessarily just because the food is there doesn't mean you have to eat it, and practicing that self-control in every single action, because how you do anything is how you do everything, and how that impacts your spiritual walk as well, in the little things. So if you're faithful in the little things, you're certainly going to be faithful in the bigger things. and being able to exercise. And that's one of the beautiful things I love about what I do is that, inside of Christianity, we have prescriptive ideas and we have descriptive ideas. And I think oftentimes in our faith walk, the sermons we're hearing from the pulpit encourage us, but oftentimes they are descriptive and not prescriptive. The things that we do through fitness and nutrition are prescriptive, right? And so when you can tie those things, when you can tie the theology with the actual practice in your day-to-day, and you're seeing it through every filter of your life, man, it just becomes such a powerful way to embrace your walk, and it's tangible. Because I think there's a big disconnect oftentimes with what is said from the pulpit and what actually we do, let's say Monday through Saturday, right? And when we can connect that in things so basic as the way we eat, the way we intentionally move, I think that can be very, very powerful. Seth, you're 80 pounds down in 20 weeks. Man, how has that impacted your life at home?
Oh, I don't know if we've got time for all that. It's been incredible. I hinted at it a little bit with the story we tell ourselves. Just what I view myself as capable of, who I view. The thing that your body image does to you is it colors your perspective on way more than just what you look like. Your discipline or lack thereof will shape what you think you're capable of in your job, what you think you're capable of in other aspects of your faith, what you think you're capable of in your relationships. They are all interconnected. They're all enmeshed. And so when you take responsibility for your nutrition and you really get after it, and you start to tell yourself a better story of who you are and what you're capable of and what God's made you for, it will permeate into your relationships. It will permeate into what you're capable of at your work or your profession or your passion, whatever it is. Maybe you're in ministry, whatever it is. I mean, it just, you don't think of it this way, but like when I walk around somewhere as simple as the grocery store, and I'm throwing my iceberg lettuce in the cart, whatever, I'm doing the things I didn't used to do. I got my 3 crowns of broccoli, whatever. I feel proud of myself, and I don't mean to say that in like a pride as like arrogance, but like I walk with like a comfort in who I am and a confidence in who I am. And when you can walk around in life that way, just because you've made some good decisions and it's shaped kind of how you look and how you feel and all of that, it can bring you to this place of confidence where you can just execute at a higher level in every area of your life.
Man, that was perfectly said, man. I mean, this is something that I've been, preaching for 2 decades. People look at me initially like I have 4 heads, and the concept is, hey, if you can dial this area of your life in, intentionally moving, proper nutrition, and it's going to have an impact over every single area of your life in such a positive way. And we hear it. I mean, I hear it often, and maybe in the business world where people say, if you dress professional, you act professional. And that's just talking about some clothes. Imagine just walking into the whole different body, not from a prideful standpoint, but just from the idea of, man, I'm the type of person that whatever I say I'm going to do, I do. And the byproduct of that is being in a stronger body, being able to perform better, to show up as the best version of myself. And the question, I don't think it's a question, but I think that the statement is, how am I not going to do better in life by being healthier, by being in a stronger vessel? And, as common sense as that is, it's not necessarily the most common thing said out there, right? People think of fitness in terms of aesthetics and performance and longevity, which are all great things, but they don't necessarily think of it in terms of, man, this is the way to have an edge in life, right? You see a lot of people trying to optimize their business, their relationships, but they're doing it with all sort of outer strategies versus going from within, right? Saying, hey, I'm going to organize my life from the way I eat, the way I move, the way I sleep, the way I hydrate. And when I do that, I'm naturally just going to be in a better state of mind, which is going to impact my emotions, and my emotions are going to impact my actions. As common sense as that sounds, it is not the common thing that we hear. And I think we need to speak more about these things. And you're a perfect example of that, man. I mean, I remember the first day we met. You look radically different. I feel like I'm to a totally different person. You look younger. You look more vibrant. You look more just, connected. I'm not saying that you didn't on the first day. You're a sharp guy, but there's just something different, very different about you. And I'm excited for you. I guess the question, Seth, is, do you think, or does it even cross your mind that at some point you might revert back to your old habits?
No, I don't think so. The freedom that's found on this side of discipline and decisions, you fool yourself prior to this into thinking that the eating and the letting yourself indulge is making you feel better, or is you scratching some itch or whatever. But we all know that it's not actually fulfilling us because we're unhappy. That's why we're searching. That's why we're looking for solutions. That's why there's a billion different subscription services that you can hop on, right? It's because they're profitable. It's because people are chasing something.
That's right.
On this side of the discipline, it's like, it's like being unplugged from the matrix in a way. It's just like, you can't really go back. And you might have lapses in judgment and moments, but you can't really go back once you've accessed this, because it's such a freeing, powerful change that takes place in your life. And I don't see why I ever would go back. It's like, what is it? A scripture. I don't want to be a dog returning to my vomit. Like, I'm not going back, like that's gross.
Yeah, it's a strong proverb, man. I go back to that all the time because, we make mistakes, but if we go back, then what's the saying? If you make a mistake, oh well. If you make the same mistake a second time, you know what I'm talking about. Like, and then the third time, you're just you're not learning from the mistake. And I think that for me in my life in general, walking as a Christian is challenging. It's challenging because you're going against your counterculture. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything, but yet, there are times where, I think to myself, I'm like, man, you think of those small little pockets of times where, and I don't know your story. I didn't grow up in a Christian home. And so for 33 years, I was a crazy man. And in those crazy times, there were some little pockets that maybe come back as memories and things that you revisit and you're like, oh, well, that was kind of fun, but I don't do that anymore. And yet the thought of me being in the lion's mouth and experiencing all the pain that I experienced for, 33 years of my life, there's just no way that I would ever go back to that. Right. It was so painful. And I think when people are in that pit of despair because maybe A1C levels are elevated, their blood pressure isn't where it should be. They're battling to even tie their shoes, and some way, somehow they manage to get away from that. I think that thought of that pain that they were in at some point can be the motivating force so that they never go back. So my encouragement to you is to, if you can go back and think of some of those painful moments and when you were 80 pounds overweight, and intensify the volume of the pain, I think that'll be a good guardrail for the rest of your life. Because I know in a different sense, talking about my life before Christ, how I do that, I intensify that volume and it just keeps me where I need to be. Yeah. Of course, I believe it's the Spirit of God, but of course, there's also that mindset that we need to cultivate. And so do you think that on the other side of this, people are always watching. Do you know of anyone that you've impacted, firsthand, people that are in your circle of influence that are like, man, I saw you lose weight and I got on track? Because I've had a couple of people, I've had entire neighborhoods transform from one guy going out and doing slow burn, and then the neighbors just watching him, lose the weight. and then next thing you know, 2-3 people in the neighborhood are losing weight. Anyone in your circle of influence that you know of directly that you've impacted, or at least
Yeah. I mean, the immediate one that jumps to my mind is just my wife. We've been able to walk through this together. And one of the cool hidden components of this is, as the leader of our family, how I go, so my family follows. And so these nutritional and dietary changes have been positive for my wife and my kids too, because I'm as the hungry bear, I was what I wanted, I typically got. And now that I want discipline and want nutrition, I'm bringing my family with me. But to your question directly, she's seen simple things like slow burn cardio and me doing like these really slow jogs to get my heart rate right in that range that you gave me. She's like watching me do that and drop 2 or 3 pounds, in a week sometimes from that. And she's going, okay, there might be something to this, right? And that's really cool because we get to succeed together. And so there are times when we get to go on our morning walks together for slow burn cardios. And it's a way to succeed together as a family. And I'd say that's probably been the biggest and most meaningful one. I was in a little bit of like a weight loss wager. All we wagered was buying each other steaks. So before you guys get your pitchforks out, and I was in that chat, and just the other day they were texting about it, and one of my buddies said, we owe Seth some steaks. I'm pretty sure he lost more weight than all of us combined in the contest. And so it's been cool because they've been asking me questions like, all right, how are you doing it? Like for real, how is this happening? And sadly, I have to say it's not Ozempic or whatever the drugs are. People are like, oh, are you on these new drugs? And I'm like, no, I'm doing it the real way, the old fashioned way, So.
Amazing, man. The Bible says that a righteous man leaves an inheritance for his kids. And I think when we hear that, our mind automatically goes to finances. But I also think that speaks loudly towards legacy. Yeah. And man, I just want to commend you because you're definitely, you're showing up. You're not just preaching, but you're showing your kids the right way, not through preaching, but through your actions on how to go about this area that's so important. And it's something that is completely missed in most households, is teaching kids about nutrition and how to live in a healthy way. And so, I want to commend you for that. What would you say to other people that are watching, listening to this on the other side that are struggling? And, maybe they're thinking, yeah, I work for that guy. But then, of course, the stories come up. The stories are, well, he's a guy. If it's a female listening, it's like, well, he's a guy. Guys lose weight easily. And or the person that's been on a million different yo-yo diets and nothing has seemed to work for them. What would you say to that person?
100% the story you tell yourself matters. And so you have to decide if that's really the story you want to live out first and foremost. If you want to be the fat guy, if you want to be, the chubby gal, if you want to be like, if that's the label you're going to wear, if that's the story you're telling yourself, your behavior is going to reflect that belief. You asked in the questionnaire, have you decided in your heart of hearts that you really want to change? I don't know if you still do that, but that's what you asked me. Yeah. And I, at the onset, when I saw that, I don't know that I really knew how to interpret that question. I believe that I did, but on this side of it, I can see it a little more clearly. And that is, you have to decide to stop telling yourself that story, that you are the person who overeats, that you are the person who is, 80 pounds overweight, that you're just going to be that person. You have to stop telling yourself that story. You have to decide that you're capable of more, and that there is an opportunity for you through your disciplined and intentional decision making. And it's amazing that God gives us this freedom to make this change. I think I've said that to you in some of our conversations. It blows me away that I can be 80 pounds over and now be where I am. And I'm literally 2 days, I'm about to run a half marathon. And it's like, that's crazy. That's 2 different guys, right? And where it came from is the story I told myself. And I decided not to believe that lie, that I was destined to be that big guy and destined to be, and more importantly than just being overweight, destined to be controlled by food. I stopped believing that. And if you want to succeed, you need to stop believing that too. And then you need to seek wisdom and enact it. You need to trust the wisdom that you're given and enact it. Don't argue. Don't fight it. You're gonna be arrogant and you're gonna think, well, I'm gonna change this little thing or I'm gonna change that little thing. Take the wisdom, get it, and enact it. Because if you get wisdom but you don't enact it, it's just information, goes in one ear and out the other. It becomes wisdom when it's applied, and that's what's so powerful about it.
Amen. It's funny because I don't think the Apostle Paul was thinking about a 6-pack, but he clearly says, do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind so that you can discern what is the will of God, right? And when I hear that, this is a super spiritual man that's saying, hey, you were given something in between your ears called the brain. Now, this is an area where God has given you the ability to change, to influence, and that's where change starts. And oftentimes you hear people say, you got to change your mindset, but no one tells you how you do that. And I often say, you do that through what you say to yourself, which is what you're saying, right? This brain is a preservation mechanism. It's there to keep us alive. And so it gives us the worst case scenario. And we need to turn that around, reframe it, and be able to package it in a way and where it can impact our actions in a way that benefit us so that we can bring these goals to fruition. Man, I have a request, and I didn't even ask this before the interview off camera, but I want to get you on the spot because that's the best. You're a musician.
Yeah. Right.
What do you sing again? What genre?
It's like pop, hip hop type stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Would I put you on the spot if I said, can you give us 30 seconds of something that is quick for you?
Like you want me to sing a song?
Yeah. Close it out for us. Come on.
Oh man. I gotta look at what's behind me here.
This is the way to close out an interview, by the way.
Can you even hear anything?
I hear you.
All right. Oh man, I don't know what to play though.
Here, play something that comes to mind that will inspire someone on the other side based on what we've been talking about.
All right, this is more of like a church song then. We'll do like a church song.
Sure.
I'm forgiven and I forgive by the blood of Jesus Christ. Though the darkness bides its time, He holds me through the night. When condemnation calls my name and shame tells me to hide, I know I'm forgiven and I forgive by the blood of Jesus Christ.
Wow, dude.
There you go.
Man, what a way to close out this interview, brother. It's an honor. It's a pleasure. I feel very blessed to be able to, be with you throughout this journey. It's been an incredible 20 weeks. You've done some amazing things. I know you're going to continue to impact people. So keep doing what you're doing. Certainly keep singing because that is a gift.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for this interview. And for those of you guys listening on the other side, I think you see hope. I think oftentimes people say have hope, but it's hard for us because we can't see it. You've just seen it with your own eyes. This is a man who has decided to change the story. And as a byproduct of that, he's been able to get healthy, to get strong, to be an example for his family and others around him. And as you heard the man say, it's impacted every aspect of his life. And I know that this story can be true for you. So tell yourself a different story, take action, And I think that the most important thing is that you need to be ready in your heart of hearts. And if you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, then you are fertile ground for success. There's hope for you. And I really hope that this has inspired you and that it speaks to your heart and brings conviction that leads you to actions that will lead you in a positive direction. Thank you so much for joining us on An Idol Called Food. I hope you enjoyed this episode. My name is JT Tapias. If we're not friends yet, please subscribe so that we can stay connected. And I will talk to you guys soon. Ciao, ciao.